Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. You are joining us at 860 WNOV and 106.5 FM. And today we are going to be talking about urban vibes. We ask that you join all of us at the table this morning. We're going to have some interesting conversation that's going to be going on today. So I'm going to ask you all to grab your coffee, your juice, your tea, and some of us your water as we sit down at the table today and have some strong conversation about research and also healthcare. So I have some interesting people that will be joining us today. So I want you to stay tuned. We're going to be having Dr. Kevin Izzard, Mrs. Patillo, Patricia Patillo, Jenna Coney from the All of Us Research Program, and Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd. So, as I mentioned, we will be having a wonderful conversation today. So, I'm going to ask that you sit at the table. You can also feel free to call in if you have questions at 414-444-5253 or 414-444-5250. And so, we're just going to dive right in today. I have Taquanda joining me. She's our community engagement manager. And Taquanda, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning. Good morning. My name is Taquanda Gilbert Crampton. I'm the Community Engagement Manager with the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. So I work hand in hand with Karen. We do a lot of great things out in the community of Milwaukee. We do presentations, we have educational sessions, and we also give our community members the opportunity to enroll in our program.
And our program really is based on research. And the ultimate goal of this program is to gather data from 1 million or more people living in the United States. And the goal is to accelerate and to move forward research and improve health. So, researchers are going to use the data to study how individual differences in lifestyles, social economics, environment, biology, affect healthcare, health, and disease. And so, as we talk on this conversation today, first of all, I would like to say this is the second day of Black History Month. And this is something that we all celebrate and we look forward to. And as we talk about Black History Month and we talk about healthcare, that is something that our community really needs to be more aware of and informed. And so we have with us some one important guest, and I love working with Dr. Kevin Izzard. He has been with us through multiple different sessions in the community. I love the way that he has just really communicated well with our community. And also, the community really loves speaking and talking with him. And so I wanted to say good morning to Dr. Kevin Izzard.
Good morning, Karen Dotson.
It's good to be here
Yes,
this morning.
it is. It's good to be, just
That's
in general,
it is good to be. And Dr. Izzard, the All of Us Research Program, can you just kind of give like an overview? First of all, before we talk about our program, I want
hmm
to talk a little bit about you as far as the things that you have done in the community, the type of people that you see and provide services
Mm,
for as it relates to healthcare.
yeah. The reason why I've been involved with all of us is because I believe in it. I believe that as a people, we need to really get a hold of our health issues. You know, it's nice to have prosperity and things, but if you're not healthy, it doesn't mean anything. And there are people at the end of life who would give up everything for another year.
Mm.
Or I had this old guy who was sitting in wheelchairs. I was talking to him at one leg, and he said, "Yo, Doc," he said, "if I knew I was gonna live this long, I would have taken better care of myself."
Ooh.
Oh,
You know,
yes,
and that
yes.
happens to a lot of us. You hit that age, and then things start happening, and then you can't undo the things that trauma that happened to you in the past. And even I guess metaphorically on a bigger picture with us as a people, we got trauma and that's affecting us. And that's why we have a lot of these health disparities, why we have higher blood pressure, stress level that's affecting our length of life and pregnancy. And so women are more likely to die in childbirth. African American women, their babies are more likely to have problems to be low birth weight. And from there on, they have problems with their life. Things that even the interesting thing is, even when you look at women that that are college educated, middle class, they still, like Serena Williams, they still are more at risk of having adverse uh, pregnancies. And so these are things that we kind of inherited from from our predecessors, our ancestors, and unless we get a handle on it, we're going to continue to have to see these things. So I believe in all of us. I believe that there is um, there's things we need to know about why things happen, and the problem that we got to get past as a people is that we're distrustful, and there's a good reason why we're distrustful, and I can completely understand why we don't want people experimenting on us. I hear it all the time. I don't want people
Yes.
experimenting on me, but if you don't experiment, if you're not in the studies, a wise person once said, maybe people have probably heard this already, but a wise person once said that if you're not at the table, you're on the menu.
Mm.
And so we need to get at the table, because people are going to experiment on us one way or the other, or maybe worse yet, they'll start giving us medication that hasn't been tested on us. So we assume that things are going to work the same in everybody, but unless you have large groups of number of people and a diverse group of participants, you don't know what happens later on. So we have to get into some of these studies. And so there are certain things in our genes that we've inherited that make us more susceptible to different medications, that might make us or more resistant to other medications, or more likely to have an adverse reaction to something, or we have these conditions. Why do Black women, the largest group of women, that have lupus? Why is that? Why do we have more aggressive prostate cancer? I mean, you can go down the line, all these things, and unless we study them, we don't know why, and we can't make changes if we don't know why. So knowledge is power, and so the more that we can get knowledge about ourselves, the more power we have. I was born here in Milwaukee, and so Milwaukee is my hometown. Um, Growing up, um, I was a first generation college student. My parents, my dad worked at Evinrude Motors, OMC Evinrude. Mom stayed primarily at home, worked some part time jobs. She was an artist also, but I had no idea what doctors did. I used to watch this TV program, Marcus Welby, MD.
Yeah, I remember
Yeah,
that.
and Marcus Welby, in an hour he'd solve everybody's problems, and happy ending. And I said, I want to be a doctor when I grow up. And again, having no real idea what that meant. And it wasn't until I got to college where I met actually my first Black doctor, Dr. Laurie Thomas.
I know Laurie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're trying to get Laurie back in Milwaukee.
Are you really?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Is
we're
she
good.
in
We're
Texas
doing
or
it.
something?
She's in Texas.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
we're gonna get out of
Actually,
Texas.
yeah. My
Yeah.
sister and her were in med school together.
Hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Small world.
Yeah. So I ended up going to medical college in Wisconsin, and have got married. My wife's from here, so I'm committed to Milwaukee. I'm not going anywhere. Um, I've always had, and this is something that my parents kind of ingrained in me early on, is that to be a part of your community. You have a responsibility. And for those who Spider-Man, that with great power comes great responsibility.
Yes.
And so I look at this MD as a tool, and so it gets me into a lot of places that otherwise I couldn't get into. And even sometimes just sitting at the table changes the conversation. When they
That's
see a Black
right.
face, they gotta recalibrate.
Yes, exactly.
And
Yes.
so being at the table, going back to my earlier statement, being at the table is important because it keeps you off the menu. Um, so as I went through medical school and started seeing patients, a lot of Medicaid, Badger Care, patients, people who are underinsured, uninsured, struggling, and you start seeing some common things that are happening, and some of it is political, Some of it is environmental. Some of it is social. Some of it is bad choices that we make with our lifestyle. But all these things are contributing to why we have greater these big health disparities, meaning differences between the majority population and us. And some of the things are easy to change. Most of them aren't. If they were easy to change, they probably would have been changed already. But things like access to healthcare, that's a huge, and that's more maybe in the political realm. Is where do we put hospitals? How do we support them? Where do we have doctors? What do the doctors look like? Um, do you feel like you can trust your doctor? Are they meeting your needs? Can you communicate with them? Those are issues of access that really affect our ability to have good health. Screening tests. Are we doing screening tests? Are we able to get them? Are you able to get a mammogram? Are you able to get a pap smear? Are you getting your prostate checked? Do you trust your doctor to do those things? So those are some of the things aside from the biological things that are going on. And we can get into a lot more of those. But those are some of the things too that I think will be studied with all of us is, what is the intersection of our community and our environment with our genetics. The genes part, for the most part, you can't change. You're born with the genes you're going to have. Now, there's a lot of investigation going on and whether you can turn genes on or turn genes off. But for the most part, you're born with the genes you got. And all you can do is like, you're dealt a hand, with the cards, and you got to play that hand that you're dealt. And so, and some of these things that we're talking about too are, I might be dealt a lousy hand, but what do I pass on to my partner? What do I pass on to my kids, to the next generation? And a lot of things we're talking about today, and a lot of things we're doing with all of us are not going to directly help us. They might not cure our issues that we have, but the next generation hopefully will be healthier.
Yes.
Dr. Kevin, I got a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about genes. Can we pass on our behavior?
That's a good question.
Could we get into mental health too?
Mm-hmm.
Along with physical health. I'm going there.
Yes.
Every chance you get. Yeah.
Can we?
You know what? This is an interesting thing. So all of this has always been this debate, at least for a long time, and it's still ongoing about nurture versus nature. When we look at someone, are we the way we are because we inherited that, or because of our environment? So our environment turned us into something. It's a matter of both. It's going to be the short answer.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, and we see this with twins that were separated at birth. They come together as adults and they got the same personality characteristics, and so, and they never even knew each other. They grew up in different environments. And so we know there's something about your genes that might make you, maybe more short-tempered or more creative, or, there's these different things that are part of us that we inherit. But a lot of it too is nurture. What experiences that you have, what do you not trust people, because of you had issues as a kid. So it's a matter of both. So mental health is, and then for us, I think mental health is kind of one of those we talk about social determinants of health. When you're stressed out, it affects your health. So you can't disconnect the psych from the physical stuff.
And that's what I was getting at, because I've heard, once you behave in a certain manner for so long, your brain can be reprogrammed, and then based on stress and stuff, your body starts to, like, I just learned about cortisol, and how a lot of stress can cause a high level of cortisol.
Yeah.
Your legs are getting smaller, your muscle mass is losing, your stomach is getting bigger, and we call it beer gut sometimes. Sometimes it's stress gut, but that's a health thing. So do we pass that down? So I was just, that's why I asked that question.
Yeah. I got a whole talk that I did on generational trauma and how that affects our health. Because there's stuff that that happened to our great grandparents that are still affecting us.
Yes, it is.
The slavery and people, and I think one of the things that's kind of key that tell people to start change my mind to think this way is, instead of asking what's wrong with that person, ask what happened to that person. Because a lot of it is, when you say what's wrong with somebody, you're assuming that they got this dysfunction in the way they work. But when you ask what happened, it's like any of us. That could be any of us. It's just a matter of the things that happened that brought them to that
And that's
point.
what creates the stigma.
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Something's wrong with you instead of what happened.
Yeah. You have to say, okay, what's wrong with these young people out here, driving
Right.
crazy?
A lot of people
Right.
don't realize something happened.
Uh-huh.
I'm still trying to figure out why I remember things from 1.5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Wow, that's great.
and people say you don't, and I tell them, and they're like, "How do you?
Wow,
How did
that's
you?"
amazing.
Mhm.
And I told my sister, I remember playing in the crib
Mm-hmm.
and playing with the bottle and
Mm-hmm.
dropping it, and you throwing it back in.
Wow,
I said I was playing
that
with
was
you.
good.
She's
Yeah.
6 years older than me. She said, "Keon, but the bottles were glass." I said, I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, yeah, they were back then.
But Keon,
yeah.
see, you remember a lot of people. We remember, but we don't consciously remember.
Yeah, I got a
So
lot of
so
those.
it's in us.
I got a lot of those.
And so you were neglected as a child, and now all of a sudden you have problems with relationships, and you're distrustful of people. That could be something happened to you as an infant.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You are joining the All of Us Research Program at the table. I'm Karen Dotson with WNOV 860 and 106.5 FM. And we have Dr. Kevin Izzard here with us today. And he is a family physician. And we have a caller on the line. Let's see what our caller has for us this morning. Good morning.
Morning, everyone.
Good
Dr.
morning.
Good
Izzard,
morning.
Keon. I'm humbled to be able to make my comment. Keon, just listening to you over the years has made me talk more because I'm a private person. What you said about, I'm just going to make my comment. My youngest daughter didn't grow up around her dad. When we went to see her grandmother in the hospital, she said, "Oh, she looks just like my son." Says she acts like him too. So with them not being around each other, she picked up traits genetically. I believe Keon. She acts just like her dad. Also, when we go to the doctor or the hospital, please, medical folks, listen to us. If I tell you that this Dilaudid helps me, and you say, "Well, we're going to try ibuprofen and something else on you," why would you do that? I've just left surgery. I told you this is what works for me.
Mm.
One more quick example, Vioxx. I was pretty much forced to take Vioxx a few years ago. Said, I'm not interested in taking new medications. I know what works for me. So we'll just give you this prescription anyway. If you decide to take it, take it. You all know what happened with Vioxx. It was taken off the market 6 months after I got that prescription because it was causing heart attacks.
Mm.
I'm going to hang up and listen. I love you all. Have a good weekend.
Thank you
Thank
for
you, thank
calling.
you.
Dr. Izzard, how
Yes.
would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, calling for that. Yeah. Unfortunately, you're right. A lot of us in the medical community do not listen, and it's getting worse because now the standards have become 15-minute office visits, and so you get in that room and you got 15 minutes to address the issue, to write your prescription, to do whatever note you need to do, and move on to the next person. And so people don't want to listen because, especially if you're one of these people that's wordy or you got a complex problem, so. That's why I say it's important to have a primary doctor. Have somebody who you trust, who knows you, so you're not starting over from square one every time you need something, because you got a primary doctor and they know this medication doesn't work for you, or you don't respond to this medication well. They're not going to try to give it to you again. Or there are certain people I know, just because I've been seeing them for years. I know that if they call me, there's something serious going on. Other people, they call, and they say, okay, I know this person. They're probably, maybe just, maybe exaggerating a little bit, so who you need to take really seriously and who you can, kind of hold their hand and walk them through it. But that only comes from having a relationship. And so, hopefully, you have a primary doctor who you trust and who can help you maneuver through these systems. Because, yeah, you're right. You go to have a surgery, even a minor surgery. Doctors don't want to give you narcotics anymore. because one, they don't want to have to deal with the hassle of having to document things, but people are also afraid that they're contributing to this opioid crisis and that you're going to take the medication and you're going to give it away, you're going to sell it, you're going to abuse it, you're going to become addicted. Even though the majority of people don't, but still, you don't want to be that one person who's blamed on making someone an addict. So you're less likely to get pain medication, which is an interesting thing. So kind of going back to research, we found that African Americans are less likely to have their pain complaints taken seriously.
Yes.
But didn't we kind of win in the opioid crisis with that one?
We did, yeah, by accident, right?
Yes.
They didn't want to give it to us.
Yes.
Yeah, and the other thing I wanted to mention too, that's one of the importancies of being involved with our program, the All of Us Research Program, because what we are looking at is how to be more precise, how to have precision medicine that will allow for our healthcare providers to be able to make better decisions for us. You want to speak on that, Dr. Izzo?
Yeah, that's something that President Obama kind of proposed. This idea about precision medicine. So right now, you go to the doctor and you got a condition, and there's a kind of a list of medications that we use to treat that condition, and we kind of try one. Probably the one that's most likely to work. If that doesn't work, then we'll try another one. So it's kind of trial and error. We're getting to the point now where we can sequence your genome, so we can tell what your genes are, and in the near future, and actually we're at that point now where we'll be able to say, oh, okay, based on this person's genes, they're more likely to respond to this medication instead of this medication, and that's precision medication. That's precision medicine. So you got cancer, instead of us giving you a broad spectrum chemotherapy medication going to kill all your cells, we're going to try to target it to just that one cancer that you got that's more specific, and that's specific to you.
This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program, and you are joining us at the table today. We have Dr. Kevin Izzard with us. We are at 860 WNOV 106.5 FM.
And phone lines are open if you want to join the conversation. 414-444-5250. Call on in 414-444-5250 with your questions, comments, and contributions.
Good morning and welcome to the Urban Vibes. I'm Karen Dotson with the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and you're listening to 860 WNOV and 106.5 FM. And we have a special guest with us today, Dr. Kevin Izzard, excuse me, and Dr. Kevin Izzard. It is so good to continue talking with you. Thank you for joining us at the table.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be here, an honor. I mean that.
Yeah, we if for people that are just joining us, we've been really talking about the importance of research, and also looking at why you would want to be involved in this research program. And Dr. Izzard, one thing about this research program compared to other programs like clinical trials, it's a little bit different. Can you kind of talk to people about the difference?
Yeah, yeah. So, anytime a new medication comes out, or even a new way of doing things, we have to study it. So you have to get a group of people, and usually, usually the first stage of that research is to see if the medication's safe. Okay, so you give it to a group of people. Another group of people get a placebo. You compare the two, see what kind of side effects they have. If it's deemed to be safe, then you enter the next stage of research where now you're starting to see, okay, what is the best dose to use and how effective is it? And so, for years, we have not been in those research studies. And so, and usually what happens with the research studies, if you happen to be like at a teaching hospital, like I said, Freighted, there's a good chance that one of the people you have might be doing research on you're seeing a kidney doctor, and that doctor might be doing research on kidneys, and they might enroll you in a study. So they basically they put you in this group. You might get medication, you might get a placebo.
And what is a
means
placebo?
Sugar pill. Okay. So they want to make sure that, and the best studies are ones where they're double blinded, meaning that the doctor doesn't know which pill you're getting, and the patient doesn't know which pill you're getting, and you want to see the effect. Okay. Now with all of us, it's a little different because we're not enrolling you in a specific study. So if you sign up for all of us, we can't tell you, oh, we're going to use your data for blood pressure, or new blood pressure medication, or a new procedure for taking out your gallbladder, and we're not going to be able to tell you that. Basically, what you're doing is you're going into a big database. So your information that you consent to is put in this big, let's say, big computer on the cloud somewhere. Okay, and it's actually as all these different computer systems in your doctor's office. And so a researcher might want to study, okay, let's go back to why do Black women have a higher rate of lupus? So they can query the system to try to find out, okay, I want to know the names of Black women between the ages of 18 and 65 who have lupus. And he might want to look at certain things, or she might want to look at certain things about, what's in that person's background, what's their diet like, what zip code do they live in? Because we know a lot of things are associated with zip code. It's an environmental stress, so they might find that people who live in a certain area or exposed to different toxins like pollution and things might affect their susceptibility to having a condition. They want to they might want to look at what medications the person got. These Black women that had lupus, and what medication was more effective, given not just one doctor's office and the way one doctor treated them, but thousands of women. And so, but again, when you sign up for all of us, you don't know how they're going to use your data. And also they try to make it so that, well, they definitely made it so that your information is not identifiable. So even though somebody might be looking at your information, they don't know that person doesn't know who you are. So that's to keep things confidential. So, and that's important because, like for instance, we talk about, knowing your, your genetic, makeup. You don't necessarily want your insurance company knowing that, because they might say, oh, okay, you're more prone to developing Alzheimer's, so we're going to jack up your insurance because at some point you're going to be a liability to us. So that information is we keep that information confidential. Now one of the things that does come up is that, because I actually have enrolled myself, there's one of the questions we ask you is, do you want to know your, your
Exactly.
your genes?
It
And
took me a
some of it,
minute to think about that
yeah, it
too.
does. Yeah, you got to
It
think about
really
that
did.
because so yeah, okay, let's say my grandma had Alzheimer's and my
Hmm.
uncle had Alzheimer's. Do I want to know if I'm susceptible to getting Alzheimer's? And if we knew the exact gene, let's say, okay, I know for sure that I'm gonna get Alzheimer's, when I turn 50 or 60. Um, that's gonna really affect your life.
Dr. Izzard, I agree to that in a sense, but also there are some things that we could do proactively too
Yes.
by knowing that, correct?
Right, exactly, right, and so that's the trade off, right? Because again, knowledge is power. So some people might find that that's limiting to I can't function now because every time I forget something, I'm wondering, is this the Alzheimer's coming?
Yeah, that
You
does
know,
run across your mind.
right, yeah. But other people, it's helpful, especially for certain conditions that are genetic. You might want to tell your kids that they can plan ahead, or you can start changing because and then that's where the research comes in. You might be able to change some things about the way you exercise your brain to make you less likely to to develop Alzheimer's or to delay it, or maybe medications that might delay it. So um, that's why it's important to know. But you can consent to them being able to use your genetic information without you knowing. And you can
Right, the
at any time you can
results.
right
Yeah.
anytime you can go back and say, okay, now
Hmm.
I changed my mind. I want to know. But yeah, that's
Dr. Izzard, this program is really called Sitting at the Table with all of us and having good conversation. And that's one thing that I feel as far as being a part of the All of Us research program, that it allows for us to be able to get responses to our health and for researchers to really starting to get to know us better, because basically what's been happening in the past is that most of our medications and treatment is based on white male men. You want to
hmm
speak to that?
yeah, yeah. And so again, going back to being at the table, if and this is not just with with us as African Americans, women. A lot of times, a lot of these studies are done on. Well, think about it. A lot of places where these studies are done are places like medical schools, and so so a lot of medical students were involved in these research projects, where their professors doing something, and so they want to make some extra money, and so they're in school, and so they sign up for this study, or other people, who they tend to be and you look at traditionally medical students have been white males. Now historically, that's been historically that's changing now, but it's still you're more likely to be kind of an affluent, healthy white male, and a lot of times they want those kind of subjects because they want to see how does medication work in a healthy person, and so they define that as a healthy young white male, but again that's not that's not us.
Right, our
um,
genetics is different.
Right, right.
And so by being a part of research, and I just want to talk to people a little bit about being a part of the research program. This program, what we do is that, as Dr. Izzard mentioned, that there's a series of questions that we ask you, and you go through that. And then after that, you have appointment that you schedule with one of our clinicians. And then that's where we actually will ask to take like your blood and your urine, and those that I would say those your bio samples are then going over to Mayo Clinic, and we have to make sure
Mhm,
we get that within a certain time frame there to ensure that they can utilize it at the highest capacity possible. And
mhm,
so, those are some of the things that we look at. And what happens is that once you do that, you get a $25 gift card, and we realize that's not a lot, but it allows for people to say, okay, at least we acknowledge and thank you for your time, but you will receive back some information. You will get back your ancestry information. And, that's something that you don't have to pay for.
mhm,
And also, you'll eventually get back your genetic information. They are rolling that out, but they want to make sure that people can also talk with a specialist if they have questions and concerns. And then also, they can share that information with their doctor if you want. We do not share that information with anybody. That's related to your name but you. And so you would have to share that with your doctor if you want to have more conversation, and that doctor then can also talk with the specialist. And if there's some questionable things that are going on with your genetics, and NIH will pay for you to get that other test, but after that, any treatment or anything, you would definitely have to pursue that. But they can also assist and work with you finding a specialist to help work through some of those challenges. The percentage right now has been very small as far as those that are having those questionables that need to have additional information, but that is out there for you. And so I wanted to mention to people one more time that this is really free. This is something that you can be involved with. And you can also go to joinallofus.org and you can just type in and start reading about the program and see exactly how you can join, what are some of the research projects that are going on right now. So those are the things that you can really consider with this program. Dr. Izzard, do you have anything you would want to
Yeah,
comment
you
on that?
actually brought a couple of important points up. One is that in doing this, you might find some things out about yourself that that you didn't expect. So you might, again, it's part of getting the urine and the blood work. They might find something that maybe you didn't know about, and um, all of us tries to help you with, let's say something genetic comes up. They will have a genetics expert talk to you about this, but you are kind of still well, not obligated, but you probably want to talk to your doctor about that. So these are screening tests. So we can't say absolutely based on the screening that you have condition A or B. First thing you want to do is you want to go to your own doctor and get this thing retested and get something more specific. But yeah, that is a thing that we will try to help you connect with somebody. But this is not we're not providing healthcare in that sense. This is more information. The second thing is kind of segue into our next segment is that I get it why a lot of people are distrustful of this. Traditionally, historically, we have been used as subjects without our consent. And so a large portion of what happens, a lot of times signing up for this is really just getting consent. They want you to understand what can happen to your information. What are your rights? So you can always disenroll in the program anytime you want. Now you can disenroll, but the information about you that's out there is already out there. They can't get that back. But you can disenroll anytime, no longer be a participant in the program. Sometimes they might find something that's interesting and they might want you to come back and they might need to give additional specimens because either they used up the one that they had or because there's something more they want to look at. So, but again, you can consent to that at any time or not consent to it. Part of any researcher who uses this information has to do special training to make sure that as a researcher that they know the rules about how they can use your information. But also a lot of it is just a background in the history of how information has been misused in the past. We can go back to World War II and a lot of people in concentration camps were experimented and the Nazis used that information. They collected medical information from those people. Of course, that was without their consent. People know about Tuskegee, where people were, these group of men were studied over decades who had syphilis, and they found a treatment for them. They knew they had syphilis, but they opted to let them continue with syphilis to see the results. So these people did not consent to that. Henrietta Lacks. Some of you might have seen the movie The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. Oprah Winfrey made the movie, and this is a real person, lady who had cervical cancer, and what they did was. And what, Mrs. Mattel's going to be coming out, so I'll let her talk a little bit about this. But what happened with Henrietta Lacks was that she had cervical cancer, and normally when we do studies with cells and on a cellular level, you want cells that can keep reproducing, so you can do something to them, you can change something about the cell and have it continue on and see what different medications are. So you want to have, as best you can, you want to have an identical cells. So cancer cells, ironically, are cells that are very good at that. They keep reproducing. And now most cells at some point stop dividing. Now, even cancer cells, they'll stop dividing. And this woman, Henrietta Lacks, actually had her cells kept dividing. kept dividing. And so this is back in the 50s. And so her cell line is still going. The problem, though, is that no one got consent from her. She ended up dying from her cervical cancer. No one consented her about this, because this is back in the 50s. Black folks didn't have any rights as far as, what they're going to do. And then her kids found out that her cell line is going, and they're like, what, mama's cells are still alive? And
Yeah.
so and one of our local doctors, Roland Patillo, and if you watched the movie or read the book, you know what his role was. He was a researcher at Morehouse, and he was a gynecologist, and was doing studies on gynecological cancers. And so he contacted the family, and that's how they found out about this. So he was kind of their advocate in the medical system. And so that, again, all those things that happened in the past have now influenced when we do research going forward, is that we definitely want to make sure that you consent to how your stuff is being used, and that you understand what your rights are and what are the limits of what you can do with your information.
This is Karen Dotson. You are listening to WNOV 860 and 106.5 FM. And we're sitting at the table with all of us today. And we have Dr. Kevin Izzard with us, as you just heard his voice there. But we also are going to be bringing on Mrs. Patricia Patillo. She is the founder and CEO and publisher of the Milwaukee Community Journal since 1976, and also the wife of Dr. Roland Patillo. Good morning, Mrs. Patillo.
Good morning, Mrs. Dodson.
Mr. Patillo, good morning.
How are
Good
you?
morning.
Thank you for joining us today. And Mrs. Patillo, I spoke with you yesterday, and I thank you for joining us today. And I was just so delighted because, when we look at Henrietta Lacks and the history behind her, and how Dr. Roland Patillo was so involved with this study, and with her for many years, and still, there's some involvement with you all, with the family. But I wanted to mention also that Dr. Patillo, he was actually the first African American faculty member at Marquette University School of Medicine, which later became the Medical College. And we know that he has gone on to glory and since May of last year. But I wanted to welcome you and thank you for getting on the line to talk to us about Dr. Patillo and his studies.
Well, I'm so happy for the opportunity. First of all, as his wife of almost 28 years, it was my pleasure to work with him side by side as he worked with the HeLa cells and the Henrietta Lacks family. But just a little bit of background on who he was, and I think that's kind of important as we look at Black History Time, and also the goals of all of us in precision medicine, that we sort of understand how hard, number one, he worked as a Black physician, but also as a Black researcher, and more specifically in trying to make sure that the story of these cells, these remarkable cells that continue to divide, as Dr. Izzard was sharing with you, and how they are the baseline of all pharmaceutical studies, or most of the pharmaceutical studies even today. And so they are called the immortal cells of Henrietta Lacks. A little bit more on Dr. Patillo and his passion for Henrietta Lacks and sharing that story. He was born in Louisiana in 1933, and this is Black History Time, so I want to share a little bit of that. And he went to undergraduate school at Xavier University, the historically Black college in New Orleans, Louisiana. And it was at that time, 1951, that he heard about the cells of Henrietta Lacks. Dr. George Guy was doing work at Johns Hopkins University in Baltimore, Maryland. And he talked about a new way of taking cells that were harvested. And as Dr. Izzard said, without permission in this particular case, we didn't have those rights at that time. But the cells were unique. they continued to reproduce and divide and reproduce and divide. And that up until that time, their cells had been harvested, but they would only last for a day, 10 days at the most. So those cells were remarkable cells. And learning about that in 1951 at Xavier, Dr. Patillo was driven to find out why did those cells continue to do that, and other cells that have been taken over decades and had never done that. And so at the Marquette School of Medicine, which was the precursor for the Medical College of Wisconsin, even as a gynecologist and obstetrician, he was still driven to learn more. So Dr. Patillo was one of the few researchers working on who is this woman, number one, but what are those cells and how are they unique? And I think it's so important that we hear those kinds of stories, because sometimes we take so many things for granted, but just one little seed can be the difference in us making decisions about how our lives will improve our own health, the health of our families, and the health of our community. And that brings us back to the importance of all of us, because Dr. Patillo worked for years trying to understand how do we take these cells and target and begin to use this information on how the Henrietta Lacks cells responded to different pharmaceuticals, to different chemicals that they put on them, hoping that they could begin to find a targeted approach to the cure for cancer. He worked for a brief period of time as an obstetrician with Dr. Bill Finlayson. We all know Dr. Finlayson. He's one of our history makers there in Milwaukee. But it was still the research that he did, and a lot of it was done right there at the Medical College of Wisconsin. He spent over 32 years there at the Medical College of Wisconsin working on different ways to find ways to divide these cells, have them respond to different chemicals and pharmaceuticals. And so those histories of Black researchers, they had to work very hard because they didn't have the grants, nor did they have the funds and the foundations that were funding them. They were still doing their clinical work by the day. That meant seeing patients every day, still reading their journals and creating their articles and their responses from what they were learning in their research. And then last but not least, still trying to find a cure. Henrietta Lacks, I wanted to talk a little bit more about her, with this also being Black History Month, and how that drove him. Because she was a woman born in Virginia, raised in Turner Station, Maryland, and she was a young mother. She died at the age of 31 with 5 children. Think about that. 31 years old and 5 children. Of course, in those days, women and men married very, very young, so it was not unusual to have teenage brides. But 5 children, 31 years of age, and Dr. Patillo was driven to find out more about what are those cells all about and who is behind them. During his fellowship at the Johns Hopkins School of Medicine, he learned that HeLa stood for Henrietta Lacks. To that point, everybody thought HeLa, H-E-L-A, meant they had come from a woman called Helen Lane. That information was withheld until he began to start talking about, no, this is not right. You're using the cells. The pharmaceutical companies are coming up with new medicines. They're finding out new ways to do things, but those have come from a Black woman. That drove him to want to know the family. And from the family came all of the history that we now have seen in the book, The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, as well as the HBO movie with Oprah playing the part of Deborah Lacks. Also, it's a movie called The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks. The family we still are very much in touch with. And in August of last year, They finally got some compensation for all of those decades. Just think about that. From 1951 until 2023, the family was trying to learn about the cells, trying to learn who their mother was, because they were very young children when she died. And then, of course, the scammers and the people who will oftentimes abuse coming to get information, using their information, using the cells, and them never having compensation at all. Dr. Patillo was driven to make certain that the family was recognized, that more people knew that those were cells of a Black woman that was benefiting the world, because those cells were given free, no cost. He had no personal benefit, no monetary benefit, except that he loved his people, his community, and he particularly loved that family. At his memorial last year, the family was there to show their appreciation for what he had done, because he stuck himself out there when others knew who she was, but would never ever tell who she was. So the important thing with Dr. Patillo, I'd like everybody to remember, is number one, he was a Black man in a white world, the third graduate medical college medical doctor graduating from St. Louis University. That's where he got his medical degree. The very first professor at the Medical College of Wisconsin in obstetrics and gynecology, and known throughout the world for his influence and his determination to share the story of who Henrietta Lacks really was. Until his dying day, he was still connecting dots and still connecting the stories that he was still reading and those that he could understand, driven, still trying to find that cure for cancer. And he also fully supported all of us that I've worked with ever since Ms. Dotson came to me to share the story, because he understood the importance of precision medicine, targeted medicine, us each understanding our history, our genetics, our influence of what we eat, how we sleep, the things that we do that make a difference in our health every single day. And those drove him throughout, because he understood that until we are in it, there's no way that we can win it. And that's what all of us has continued to do. It's shown us that it's important that we know who we are. And when the clinical trials come, that Blacks are in that group of people who are being considered as well. Because for years, we have all had medications that were made from trials with people that did not include us. So Dr. Patillo, again, as I said before, first, I am happy to share his story as his wife, his widow, but more importantly, his love for his community, his love for our people, and the determination that everyone needed to know the truth of what was happening and how we each can contribute in making a difference.
Thank you, Mrs. Patillo. I just know that Dr. Patillo was he was such a great person. And I just told her, I said, the more I read about him, but I knew him as a person and as a friend just as well as you. And he was just so down to earth that you just wouldn't even think that he was,
Right.
so deep into what he was doing.
Right.
Isn't that right, Dr.
Yeah,
Izzo?
I met Dr. Patel when I was a medical student. I went to the medical college, and he was a brilliant man. I mean, last time I saw him, he was probably 80, and his mind was still sharp.
Sharp as ever.
Yep, and but beyond that, it's one thing to be smart and brilliant, but he was kind, and in fact, and that's probably why he was the one that pursued this, because he had a heart for for the injustice that was done and wanted to pursue it. And that's I think that's what's important about getting more people at the table, because you know all the people that have been studying these HeLa cells for years, no one cared enough to investigate it, but he was. And so the more people you get, the more people that have a emotional investment in this, the more likely you are going to get justice.
This is Karen Dotson with the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. We're at WNOV 860 and 106.5 FM. And we have Dr. Kevin Izzard that you just heard, and also Mrs. Patillo, the wife of Dr. Patillo. And before we go to break, Mrs. Patillo, do you have any closing words for us?
Well, I do. I want to remind everybody that it is Black History Month, so take a look. Look up Dr. Roland A. Patillo. You'll find out about all of the papers that he wrote, and those are international papers accepted and used by doctors all over the world. He was the author. He was a clinician. He was a department head. He had his honorary degree at the Medical College of Wisconsin in 2018. And most of all, he was a people's doctor, as Dr. Izzard said, and he knows them well. He was a professor who loved his job, and he was accepted by his peers. And he was determined to use all of the gifts and the talents that he had received to benefit us as a Black people, to benefit us as people striving for better health, and most of all, making sure that every patient came to him was loved, regarded, and given his very best. And look him up.
We will. And thank you very much for joining us at the table with the All of Us Research Program. I'm Karen Dotson. You were just listening to Mrs. Patillo. And we're going to get ready to go to break. But I want to thank Dr. Izzard for joining us as well. And do you have anything to close with before you leave? And then after that, we're going to be having Jenna Coney, who is actually the manager for the All of Us Research Program in the clinical operations component.
Well,
Department, I should say.
yeah.
Dr. Izzard.
I hope you have me back. That's all I'm
Oh,
saying.
you're gonna be back at the table. It's not that's not even a question.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
will be back at the table. But I just wanted to say, Dr. Izzard, that it's always a joy to hear you, and you just make it sound so real, and you have such a heart for the people in the community. And when I go places and you there, they respect you highly, and they can't wait to hear and talk to you more. And so, I just really appreciate the work that you have done in the community. You've been involved in so many different organizations in the community, but most of all, you have a heart for the people. And so,
Well,
any
thank you, thank
closing
you.
remarks for
Yeah,
us?
I'm the last word on Henrietta Lacks. I'd like to believe. I didn't know her, of course. I would like to believe that back at the time when she had her cancer, if someone had asked her that, if someone was able to look in the crystal ball and said, Miss Lax, you have cancer, you're gonna die, but your cells are going to change the world.
Wow.
Would you consent to this? I'd like to believe she would have said
I
yes.
agree.
The
I
problem
agree.
though is that they didn't ask her.
Exactly.
And so you have the opportunity, as you and your own self, we don't know what gifts you got or what, who has the next immortal cell line or the next genetic miraculous genetic thing that we don't know about, but you have the opportunity to use what you got to help other people. It might not help you directly. They say, you might die from your cancer or whatever, but you have the chance to change future generations. And so that's my challenge to you is to think about that, and even though you might not directly benefit from it right now, but it can change the world.
This is Karen Dotson with the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And you're at the table, and we just heard from Dr. Izzard and also Mrs. Patillo. And we're going to go to break. And after that, we're going to have Jenna Coney join us. But I want to hear from you at the table. So if you have any questions, you can always feel free to call in at 414-444-5250. And please join us at the table. Good morning again. This is Karen Dotson from the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And we are a part of Urban Vibes. And this morning we're sitting at the table and we're asking you to join us at the table. We were just talking with Dr. Izzard and then also Mrs. Patillo, who is the founder and CEO of the Milwaukee Community Journal. But one thing that was so interesting when we were talking with them is that we also talked about African Americans and the importance of being involved in the medical career and being involved in what they are doing and what they have done in the past as it relates to health care for us and also research. And so there's going to be an event that's coming up this month, actually, and it's going to be sponsored by the Medical College of Wisconsin and also some other partners related to advancing in healthcare Wisconsin endowment. And it's going to be Black Men in White Coats, and it's a documentary screening Saturday, February 24th from 1 to 3 at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. And I'm going to ask if Keon, if you could play that clip for us to get people interested. And if you are interested, you can also call to get free tickets, complimentary tickets at 414-955-4350. Keon?
My name is Dr. Dale Okorodudu. I'm a pulmonary and critical care physician practicing at the Dallas VA Medical Center. I'm also the founder of Black Men in White Coats, the author of How to Raise a Doctor, and the author of Pre-Med Mondays. Black Men in White Coats was started in 2013 when some alarming data came out saying that the number of Black men applied to the field of medicine was actually decreasing. It was actually less in the year 2011 than it was in 1978. When that news came out, we knew we had to do something about it. That's why we started Black Men in White Coats. Today is a Black Men in White Coats Youth Summit. Over 1,800 people registered. We're gonna inspire, mentor. We've got a lot of great stuff lined up for today.
There's a large population out here who has never seen a Black doctor.
It's a good feeling to have other young men around to help my boy realize that this is something that can come true.
I thought this would be a good opportunity to see how to become a cardiologist.
This event was really good for me, so I can be able to learn more about my passion and what I want it to be.
It's one thing to have a dream, but it's another thing to have the steps to make it come true. And that's what we're here today to do.
All of these resources, all of these doctors that were here today, it's incredible. It really is.
I know for a fact that we can get more Black men in white coats because of what I'm seeing here today.
So I'm going to ask if you are interested that you can also call at 414-955-4350 and go get more information about complimentary tickets to this documentary screening February 28th at the Marcus Performing Arts Center. And this is something that the Medical College really believes strongly in. They're going to also have a Black Men in White Coats Youth Summit on Saturday, May 4th, and you'll be hearing more about that as we get closer to that date. But as we were talking with some of the professionals this morning, they were talking about the importance of having people that look like us involved into medical careers so we can feel more comfortable. And so they are more relatable in some situations. And so the All of Us Research Program, we are really also working with researchers and looking for a diversity of researchers as well as people of color and diverse different groups to be a part of this program. The research program actually has been going on for over 5 years now. And we are the largest database in the world. And I'm saying that to let you know, in the world. This is something that we just conquered this last year. We are excited about it. And so as we go through this new season of Black history, knowing the importance of wanting to be involved in research is really something that we really should consider. So I want to also introduce to you a person that really started at the very beginning of the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. Her name is Jenna Coney. She is the Clinical Operations Manager for our program. And so I want to bring you on this morning and say good morning to you, Jenna.
Hi, good morning.
It's been a very interesting first hour where we had some exciting guests, Dr. Izzard talking about the importance of research, and then also Mrs. Patricia Patillo talking about the Henrietta Lacks and how Dr. Patillo was so involved with the research and how it's so important to be involved in research. And so I wanted to bring you on today to talk more about the importance of the All of Us research program and also speak about why and how it's so different than other research programs.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for me, there's so many things I could touch upon, but I think I'll just start out. The program will be open to people who are healthy and sick, and from all communities. I think right there is a striking difference. Usually, clinical trials have very small groups that participate, but not the All of Us research program, where we are looking for that million goal, and it's very inclusive. So even the conditions that we're studying, you can be any healthy or sick, and I think that's a huge advancement because there's special things about each person. And then All of Us, again, it does serve as that national database for thousands of studies to be conducted and not just one individual study. So that's probably one of the biggest difference right off the bat. And I'd have to say my second most important thing about what's different about All of Us is it's the first research of its kind to return results to the participants that provide data, but now we're offering something in return other than just participating and then, a paper gets published and you might or might not hear about it. So the fact that we can return information that people can use to be more involved with their health, I think those are two large differences I'd like to point out.
Jenna, when we're talking about this program, what type of people join the program and why do they participate from your experiences?
Oh, I feel this could be a whole episode in itself.
Let's hear some of that.
I love it. I think that's one of my favorite parts is connecting to the humanity of the stories that people share with our staff on why they join. I think some of the standout ones for me, we met someone in their 90s that still runs marathons. I think that is an achievement. I don't even know if how many of us have run a marathon yet today. But then there's also the more, empathetic stories where, a sister had sickle cell and, doesn't have a very good quality of life, and they're participating because they want, better advancement where, sickle cell can be well maintained and at least improve the quality of life. We did have an event and we enrolled someone and, the importance of getting that information back, and they disclosed that they had cancer. And when we were talking about how to get your results back, they're like, well, I'm not doing this for the results. I probably won't be here the next time you try to contact me. And that really stopped me in my tracks. Like, some people are doing this because they know their journey hasn't been what they thought it would be. And then of course, like for me too, it's I think there's just been so many health challenges that we hear about. And from the healthcare professionals, we've had an ER nurse that shared with us that they're participating because they see what happens when our medicine that they're trying to help people, it doesn't work because they've been understudied or not included, and they felt really compelled to make sure they were participating to represent their communities so that, there's a better representation and then we can be a part of the improvement. So those are probably my favorites.
Jenna, that is so key and that's so important when we start looking at why are people involved in this program. I know that when I heard about the All of Us research program, at first I was like, well, I just don't know about research. I know some of the things that actually we discussed earlier today about the Henrietta Lacks and research and how, people of color, African Americans, are going to fit into this. But the more I started reading about it, the more I became convinced that if we need to be a part of this, and that's why we have you sitting at the table today to have a discussion with us about the importance of people wanting to be involved in research and why it's so important for people of color to be involved in research. And you want to speak to that, Jenna?
Yeah, I think you're spot on, and I'm sure the guests prior had mentioned plenty of the historical things that have happened, and to help with that, right? Our program is very transparent. This is voluntary. You know what you're doing. Everything's on a video consent, so everyone gets the same information. And the fact that you can withdraw any time if you change your mind or you get nervous, you can withdraw at any time. But our plan is for everyone to be long-term participants so that we can learn more. And I think that's probably one of the the biggest things I've been hearing is that they're doing it for their communities or for their children and grandchildren. So even if they don't benefit, they know that this program is finally giving them an opportunity to participate where that they can be involved and have a seat at that table and benefit from it in the long run.
I just wanted to mention to those that are just joining, this is Karen Dotson, Program Director at the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And you are joining us at WNOV 860 and 106.5 FM. And we have Jenna Coney, who is the Clinical Operations Manager for the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And we're just having really good discussion right now about the importance of research and why people want to join. And also that your information is kept very confidential. You don't have to worry about your name being put out there. Jenna, can you speak a little bit more about that for everyone?
Yeah, our program has numerous safeguards in place to minimize any potential risk to data security and participant privacy. So, for example, encrypting participant data, keeping participants' names and other identifiers separate from their health information. We call that de-identification. Those are some of the steps, and even something as far as certificates of confidentiality. And this is important because I think there's other news stories out there where even under a subpoena, we cannot release people's information of who's participating in this program. And I think that goes a long way since this is funded by the National Institutes of Health.
And what is the difference between our program and a lot of people say, well, I joined, 23andMe and things of that nature to find out about my ancestry information, my genetic information. Can you speak to the difference in those two?
Yeah, so we call it the 23andMe ancestry, recreational ancestry, versus for us, this is research results. And you may get a lot of information back, but I think one thing that's important is the information that we provide. Certain genetic variants in the genes are associated with serious health conditions, and all these health conditions that we return to individuals either have treatment or prevention options. And because this is research results, the program even go as far as offering a confirmation clinical test. And we do, for participants who have actionable results, we connect you with a genetic counselor, and that is a free service. So not only do we tell you how this could affect you, what does this mean to have an increased risk of having a hereditary disease result, and what does this mean to your family? You can bring on your family members, you can bring on your provider. That can also help decide, is this something we need to do prevention? Do we change care? And that really goes a step above what those other companies are returning, because we help you get that information, and also, what do I now do with it now that I have it?
That's something that's really key. And I want people to realize, because when I joined the program and received my results, I was a little surprised when I saw my ancestry information, because I always thought I had some Native American blood, like most of us, right? And I didn't have any. And I was like, I'm still trying to recover from that, because all through my life, my parents, my grandparents, my cousins, we all thought we had some Native American bloodline in our, in our genetics and in our DNA, and it's not there. And so now I'm like, okay, what do we do with this? And so that's something that I think that we really need to make sure that we know who we really are. Because this information is free, and you will get information about what parts of the world you're from. It even shows you like what parts of Africa. And so I had multiple different places, and I had a percentage of European blood as well. So it gives you a percentage of what and where you're from. And that's kind of unique as far as people getting that information. The other component that I really love is that when people get back their genetic information, and Jenna, I would like for you to speak about that more, because that's really key as far as what they receive back. And so before we go there on what they receive back, can we just start with how do people get enrolled into the program, the next steps that you take, and then what happens once you do that?
Yes, of course. So to participate, remember, we want to return results. And the best way to do that and secure privacy is to have an online, we call it a participant portal. So you're going to create an account online at our website, which is joinallofus.org. And we're going to have you create an account. And this is how we get in contact with you, whether you want results or you don't, it's optional. And we have you go through a consent process. This is a series of videos that you can watch or read, and it tells you what the risks are, the benefits, how long we're participating, what are the requirements to participate. And then the second step there would be, if you decide to consent, would be to agree to share your electronic health records with the program. And this is an important piece of the puzzle because, right, researchers don't know who we are. So we need that de-identified health record to be that story that accompanies your samples. So before you get samples or give samples, you have to go through the DNA consent process. And this is what I love, the DNA consent process, because you don't have to get results back if you don't want to. So it's voluntary. You can say, yes, I want to know everything, or no, I don't want your medicine in your DNA, but maybe you want ancestry. And then that's kind of nice. You don't have to get that back. So for those of us who might worry about what that means or just don't want that information, it's participant choice. And I love that about that section of the program. We do have you then complete a series of health surveys. And again, this is helping us really find out your environment, your lifestyle habits, and how does that play into your health. So we need those things because those things are not in your electronic health record. So that's the importance of the surveys. Even though there may be a lot of them, they're each different and have a certain key information element to provide. And then your last step to participate in order to get that DNA is, we mentioned, samples. So right now we do samples of blood and urine and then a saliva sample. And those blood and saliva is what provides your DNA so that we can return information to you.
You know, Jenna, excuse me, one thing that you mentioned also is the saliva, and then you also mentioned about the blood and urine samples. And can you talk about the difference in those? Because some people might say, I don't want to give my blood, I don't want to give my urine, I'd rather do the saliva, and actually there's going to be different information that people will receive from those. You want to speak to that?
Yeah, well, since we use those two types of samples to check your DNA, there are some differences. And even though the blood and urine can both get you those three types of results, which I think I forgot to mention, which are your ancestry and traits, hereditary disease risk, again, and those are 59 genes that can increase your risk to having a health condition. And then there's 7 genes associated with how your body uses medicine. And we call that your medicine in your DNA. So with the samples of blood and saliva, yes, they can get all 3 results from those samples, but there definitely are some differences. So blood contains both liquid and solids, and the liquid parts of your blood include like serum and plasma. And the solids in the blood are like your whole blood cells, like red blood cells and white blood cells. And then blood has circulating information. So of course, DNA, RNA, cell-free DNA, and each of these provides different information for our researchers. In comparison, saliva only lets us collect DNA, and DNA collected from blood is usually higher quality than the quality we get from a saliva sample. And that's because, right, we eat and we drink and some of us smoke, and that all can be mixed in with our saliva, which could add to the failure rates of our sample. But, again, we want everyone to participate at their comfort level. We even offer saliva kits by mail for those who are too sick to come into an enrollment center or that don't live close to an enrollment center. So again, I would feel it's better to participate than not. One of the biggest difference I'd have to say is that over time, we can imagine that people will get more results long-term from a blood sample than saliva.
You know, Jenna, you mentioned about people coming in. Can you kind of let people know what to expect? Well, where are some of the locations? Well, we have multiple locations in some of the Freda clinics, but for the community, especially in this related area, where can people go and get enrolled into the program? Because you can do it online, the electronic portion, but then you would need to have a face-to-face visit where then they would, there's some other things that you take because you also take, body measurements and things of that nature. So can you just kind of go through that and also let them know where some of the places they can go to enroll?
Sure thing. So what we do, we call it the in-person visit. We do take physical measurements at this visit. So we're blood pressure readings, your height and your current weight at the time you're enrolling. And then one thing that usually is missing from your health record are hip and waist circumference. So that's an important piece too, because we can see, how our body, shape is, or where you put your weight on. That has also been linked to certain types of increased risk for disease. So that's a new data point that we're capturing. We do then the blood and the urine sample, or in some cases, a saliva. And if all the online section is done, it takes about 15, 20 minutes for that in-person visit. So, pretty quick and easy. And then to make it easier, we do have many locations throughout Milwaukee, Racine, Kenosha. Our permanent locations are usually associated with our Frederick clinics. So we have New Berlin, we have an Oak Creek location, West Bend, 2 in Menominee Falls. We have 1 downtown at the McKinley Health Center. But we
Also at
realized,
Curative too, right?
oh, and our main campus on Curative. Yes, I think people are always nervous to come to that one because of all the construction over here. But it is very, very nice. It's free parking at all of our locations, or validated parking. So we hope that more people will come to those locations because, it's right in the middle. And then we realized that not everyone wants to go to a clinic setting to have this done. So what my team does is called a pop-up, where we'll partner with communities and set up enrollments in the community. So we can go to churches, libraries. We've been at some veteran association places. But yeah, we really want to make sure everyone has a chance. So we do look to cover different parts of Wisconsin by doing what we call pop-ups. We've even been as far as Green Bay, Manitowoc, Appleton. So we really try to travel to get different populations and just make sure people are comfortable enrolling. And usually that means we go to them.
We have a caller on the line, and so Jenna, if we can just take this caller, you're on the line, and I just wanted to mention that you are listening to the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and we're at the table, and we're asking you to be 1 in a million. Caller, do you have a question for us?
Hi, my name is Alicia Walker, and I just, forgive me, I'm a little bit nervous, but I, just want to level set that, I don't want to confuse my passion for attempting to safeguard African Americans from being abused or misguided or personal attack on Jenna. But as a representative for the program, I do have some questions for her. I'd like to know, is she a person of color?
Well, I can speak to that. She's European, but we also have people of color as well. I'm a person of color, and I'm the program director. She's the manager of the program. DeQuanda Gilbert Crumpton, she's a person of color as well, and she's the community engagement manager. So yes, we do have people of color on our team. We have bilingual in English and Spanish individuals as well. So we try to have diversity on our team as well. Even our principal investigator is Latino as well. So we have a diverse staff. Go right ahead, caller.
Absolutely. And what HBCUs were involved in the formulation of All of Us?
That's really good that you mentioned that, because on a national level, it's just, I can't even count how many HBCs are involved in this. All of the African American fraternities and sororities are involved in this as well.
No. I'm referring to the research component, the clinical component. That's where the rubber meets the road here.
Okay, that's what I'm referring to as well. Those individuals have endorsed the program. We do have African American, we do have HBC colleges that are involved in being a part of the researchers' workbench, that we would call it. And some of those programs are also enrolling people as well. If you go to the website, joinallofus.org, you can see a lot of the affiliations there, and there are just so many to actually mention.
Yes, ma'am. This is why I've been so critical of the All of Us program. I understand it's government funded and government run, but when you do not include us from the outset in the formulation of the program, this is why you are here. And they are doing so many recruitment efforts because that trust has not been at the forefront at the beginning, at the foundation. Now, I respect my colleagues that are there and do believe in the program, And I'm very critical of it. And it's our job to be critical of it
I
because we've been
agree.
here before.
I agree. I think you should be
So
critical of anything
I
that you're
don't hear
involved with.
so is Jenna still there?
Yes.
Yes, I'm still here.
Hi. So I'm not hearing anything with respect to the clinical component and the HBCU, at least not, again, from the clinical aspect.
So, are you speaking specifically in Wisconsin, or are we looking at the larger scale?
The larger scale.
The larger scale. So I think just with that, like our participants are partners. So we
Nope.
have had groups
I want to make sure I'm clear. When you say participants, are you referring to researchers?
Yes, actually, our researcher workbench, we are now even national wide with our researchers that are doing the research, and we do take pride in sharing that even our researchers are diverse because, again, they're the ones that are going to ask really specific questions in regard to the communities they represent. So we are happy to share that even the researchers that are using the data are also diverse.
And caller, I want to mention also that on a national level, there's a community advisory board, there's a participant advisory board. On the local level, there's a community advisory board and a participant advisory board as well.
Yes, ma'am. Those things to me they serve a function, but I'm more concerned about the workbench. I'm more concerned about what's literally happening with the data, who's collecting the data, who's making the determination from the outset, how this data is being safeguarded, who's making the determination on the foundational level, when this whole thing started, how are we protecting African Americans in particular?
First of all, I want to say that it's all of us. So we want to make sure that we protect each and every participant in the program. And so I understand your concern about African Americans because I feel the same way. We want to make sure that we are protected. But there is also a board that oversees all the decisions that are made, and it is a diverse board as well. We won't be able to get into detail with you on this because it could probably go
That's
on and
where the
on as
rubber
far
meets
as the
the road. Yeah.
conversation. But what we will do is that if you have questions, you can always call our office. You can talk to me at 414-955-2689, 414-955-2689. This is Karen Dotson, part of the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin with 860 WNOV, 106.5 FM. We have Jenna Coney at the table to have discussion, and we want to thank you for listening, and we'll be right back with you. Thank you. College of Wisconsin with 860 WNOV and 106.5 FM. You are joining us at the table, and it is good to be one in a million, and we're asking you to be up and also participate with us as we move forward on this effort. We have Jenna Coney, who is our clinical operations manager for the All of Us research program at the Medical College of Wisconsin, joining us. And right now we have another caller. I'm going to ask this time if we can say good morning to the caller.
Hello?
Hi, good
Yes.
morning.
Yes, good morning. That's the lower caller that just called in. It's some fine points that that should be challenged and should be the question that you asked superb. I mean, really good question. My question is, where is the data held? I mean, where's the archives of each individual? You know, where are they holding the archives of each individual's DNA? Because you know, it's a sad thing that, especially in our community, we go and the first thing that comes about that sounds kind of good, we G for it, sort of like the chip that they're trying to, that Elon Musk wants to come out with now, as far as brainwave chips for people that it's taking to the public as though people that have been in a stroke and have lost use of their limb, that it affects the electrodes, and it will some kind of way, bring that use back to their limbs. So where are the archives of this stuff being stored? Because the only thing you have in this world that you can honestly say yours is your body and the DNA that you possess.
You know,
And
I
you
agree.
just take it anywhere.
Yeah, I agree 100% with you on that. And that is so true. But one thing that I wanted to mention, and I'm going to have Jenna really speak to that, how the data, where we keep it, is very confidential in the process. So that way you'll understand and know about that. But I also wanted to mention, too, that if we're not involved and if we're not at the table, then what are we going to, how can research, how can medications respond to us? If we don't provide this, then we're just going to be taking medications from other people that decisions were made on. So Jenna, can you talk about the confidentiality of the program now?
Yeah, I want to make sure I provide a resource for everyone because the program is very transparent about the data that we have. There's even a public database that you can take a look at. So it's researchallofus.org. It does let you know about how we require registered researchers to, go through ethics training, agree to a code of conduct for responsible data use. Before they get access, they have to make sure they meet all the requirements to keep all the data safe, and they're not going to try to re-identify anybody. In regards,
One more question, sir. One more. I have one more because I want Jenna also to discuss about where actually the process, where it's stored, how it's very confidential, where's the blood samples, where's the data from your electronic health records. I mean, we're going to talk about that. So Jenna, can you bring that up? And then after that caller, we're going to have to go to our next guest, but go right ahead, Jenna.
Absolutely. We do have different partners helping us keep the information separate. So our blood and saliva samples do go to Mayo Clinic. That is our biobank, which is in Rochester, Minnesota. The de-identified electronic health records are a few partners of Vanderbilt University. And then overall, like I said, the data browser, which is what we call the online cloud for people to access, that is the research hub. So again, the public database there is housed in a cloud that again has all the contingencies, safety, and protections, so that we do keep that information, because that is the most important thing, is to have a secured cloud-based platform that allows access to people, but also at the same time can protect that information.
Okay, thank you, Jenna Coney. You just heard from Jenna Coney, the program operations manager for the All of Us research program at the Medical College of Wisconsin. And Jenna, do you have any closing remarks before we go to our next person of interest?
Yes, I'm a true believer of the program, and also having the information transparent. So researchallofus.org to find out more about the workbench and the data there. And then, of course, to learn more about joining the program is joinallofus.org.
Thank you, Jenna Coney, the operations manager from the All of Us Research Program. I'm going to ask at this time if we can, before we conclude for today, we have a few more minutes, and I definitely want to make sure that we bring on Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd. Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd has been a pastor for 25 years, and I think it's going on 26 years now with the Matters of the Heart Ministries. She's been involved in community faith organizing for over 20 years. And also, she has been a individual that has really worked well with the All of Us Research Program and also with the community. Good morning, Pastor Teresa Thomas
Good
Boyd.
morning. Good morning. It is so great to hear all of your great guests that has been on, and it's an honor to be with you. Thank you.
Well, Pastor Teresa, why is it so important for um, individuals in the faith base and churches to be involved in research?
I will start first, Karen, straight with the word. So those of us that are believers always are quoting what God's word says. And God's word says in 1 Corinthians 6:19 through 20, do you not know that your bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit, who is in you, whom have you received from God? You are not your own. You were bought at a price. Therefore, honor God with your bodies. Wow, that is a mouthful.
It really is.
It says it to us every day. And I believe, Sister Karen, that oftentimes in the church, we will make sure that our studying and our mental capacity is doing great. We all want to go to heaven. So we are always equipping ourselves
Yes.
for getting ready for that, what they call great day. And so what about the body that he gave us to dwell in here on earth? That's the one that I believe we do need to work on more. And I believe the church has a great opportunity with this All of Us Research project to honor God with our bodies.
Thank you, Pastor. That is well said. And can you talk about your experience of being involved with the All of Us Research Program and also working with your congregation and the community?
Yes, my experience, I want to say, first of all, I've learned through the All of Us research. We hear it a lot, but a lot of times we don't really apply it. But health is your wealth. And I heard Ms. Patella say that on yesterday. Health is your wealth. And if you consider the All of Us research projects, what I've experienced is that, number one, it gives me a voice. That has been one of the greatest things that I've learned in doing community work, is that we have a voice. And in All of Us research, you have a voice. You have a voice because you have a body that you learn more about, that you teach, and you can share for generations to come. My family knows more about me, and I know more about me. And we know more about each other. The other my thing that I love about the All of Us research experience is that it has been very intentional in terms of bringing in people of color at every level so that we can trust the process. That's very important for Black people, brown people, is that there's people that we can trust and that we believe have our best interests at heart. The other part of it for me, of course, is family. I believe in legacy. I believe in things that we can leave for others. And the All of Us research gives that opportunity. Not only do we learn about our ancestry, but we learn about who we are, what our makeup is like, what our bodies can do, what our bodies can't do well. And so that helps us as well. And it gives us an opportunity to make history. The project, I'm into making history too. So all of those things,
yes,
all of those things that make a difference, I believe we do this. This is a historical program. President Barack Obama didn't just leave the White House with nothing, or didn't consider after he left, what could he leave as a legacy? The brother left us a legacy with the precision medicine project and gave millions of dollars toward it. And we have an opportunity to be a part of history.
You know, that is really key, being a part of history. And that's why this is so key when we say we want to be at the table. And that, it means so much to say that we want to be involved. I want to make sure that when I'm going to see my physician or if I'm taking medication, this is relatable to me. And it's not just based on the probability that it can work. Because with this program, the ultimate goal is that researchers and also your physician will be able to say, based on your genetics, this medication should work. It's not going to be 100%, but the probability is going to be much, much greater than it is now. How many people that are on high blood pressure or take diabetes medication, their doctor says, well, if this doesn't work, we'll try this. If that doesn't work, we'll try the other. The goal of precision medicine is almost like your eyeglasses. Like nobody else wears your glasses but you. I can't wear Keon's, he can't wear mine. And so that's the way we're starting to look at with precision or precise medication and research or treatment, I should say. Pastor Teresa, do you have any comments on that?
No, I would just say that I totally agree. And the thing that I thought about as you were saying that was each one of us, just like we have a fingerprint, we have a DNA. And so that is just as precise as we can get. All of us are different. But then in something like this, we have an opportunity to make it more beneficial for us and for our, again, families, those that we love. And we can actually do something to show them that we love them.
One thing that I love about this program is that not only do we ask individuals to join, but we also really try to give back information to the community. We have events at churches and we do enrollments, but we also have events that we want to retain people to find out, like, what were your results and what's going on right now. And we're starting to do more of that within those churches that we've been involved with and other community organizations. And also, just to bring in professionals that you can
Yes.
talk with as well. And so we're starting to really gear up to doing more of that. But can you talk about, Pastor, when you were involved with your congregation as far as, how that process went for individuals that are kind of curious?
Yes. So I would say, number one, the good thing is within the churches, again, you come into a space and a place that you can trust. With the All of Us research, they are flexible. With the churches, we can decide to do things within our own churches. We can decide to do things also with the clinics. So there's different flexibilities and opportunities that they give us. What we did was we actually joined together with a congregation. So For Him Ministries and Matters of the Heart joined together to do some work so that we can then have both of our congregations being in the same building come together. That experience was very positive. We got able to also share with the community. That's another thing about the church being involved is your community can be involved as well. Flyers are sent out. We let people know when we're going to be at the church. That experience went well. Have an opportunity to even listen, presentations that are given to help people to better understand and to answer questions. Because, these are, I would say, areas, especially when it comes to our health, that we don't know a lot about. Because why? We don't spend a lot of time with it. So we get an opportunity to hear, to learn. And then for us, the other good thing about it was, again, that legacy component of it was when we're teaching and preaching about health and wealth, we're also giving them something in real life that they could actually do and participate in. So we've done all of those things, and it's been great going out into the community. I know Ms. Karen has already given the number, but I would say if you are a church listening, a pastor, or a member, call the All of Us research, and Ms. Karen will give us that number again. But you'll have an opportunity to be a part of making history, and I believe we're still going towards that great count of be a part of 1 million. So be a part of the million.
Pastor, thank you so much for that. That yes, we are really getting around 700,000 that have participated in this program in one capacity or another. And so we are getting those numbers. And so it's really great to see that we have the diversity that we need, because when I start looking at some of the challenges that I've had in my health history of just day-to-day functioning capabilities, um just knowing that the information that I'm providing will allow for researchers to be able to make some decisions about that. And so I just want to thank you, Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd. We're going to take a quick break, and I'll bring you back to close us out. And you are listening to Urban Vibes at the Table with All of Us Research Program. This is Karen Dotson, and you're listening to 860 WNOV 106.5 FM. Would like to thank you for joining us today. We're getting ready to conclude, but before we do, just wanted to mention that this is Urban Vibes. We're at the table with the All of Us Research Program at the Medical College of Wisconsin, and we've had a wonderful time. And before we conclude, I know Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd, you still with us, and I wanted to ask you if you had any closing remarks for us.
Well, it's Black History Month. So I must say happy Black History Month to everyone. Thanking God for Dr. Charles Drew, the father of blood banking. Thanking God for Daniel L. Williams, the first Black physician to perform a successful heart surgery. Thanking God for Rebecca Crumbler, who was the first Black nurse and author from a medical college. And thanking God for you, for this program, All of Us Research and WNOV, to let our community know that health is wealth. God bless.
Thank you, Pastor Teresa Thomas Boyd, for joining us at the table. There's a couple of things that I wanted to mention to you all is that as we said, we're in the community, and we have an event coming up at Greater Galilee with their Greater Life Community Center. That's going to be on February 14th. That's Valentine's Day at 24, no, excuse me, 2432 North Titonia. That's at Greater Galilee, Greater Life Community Center, 2432 North Titonia. We're going to be there from 12 in the afternoon to 5 in the evening on February. That's Wednesday, Valentine's Day. We'll be there. So I'm asking that you would join us. Individuals that want to be a part of the program, you can always go to joinallofus.org, or you can also give us a call at 414-955-2689. This is Karen Dotson. You're at the table with us today. We thank you for joining us. You can always join us the first Friday of the month from 7 to 9 o'clock a.m. We're bright and early. I thank you for sitting with us, talking with us, and everybody have a wonderful day.